So you remember the story we did about the New York Times? They did a front page story, and it's the headline we gave it was New York Times lied about October 7th rape story because they lied about it. And they said we don't need evidence. I mean, you got to give them to them on that at least, right?
Yeah, I think it's been borne out repeatedly.
So here's the story. Screams without words, sexual violence on October 7th. Screams without words, sexual violence without any actual victims.
Really?
So what happened was that the person they said was raped, their family came back and said, no, they weren't. No, she wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't Hamas debunking it. The family who said, why are you just saying our daughter was raped?
By the way, the paper of record lied about an October 7th rape story. Well, if you can't even believe the paper that has lied us into every major war in the last 100 years, then I'm just...
Wait, they got this one wrong?
Wow.
This is an important story. Of course they got it wrong.
So now the story here is the people who wrote this story, a front page story at New York Times. This is like their first foray into journalism. They got to write it on the front page of the New York Times. So that's the scandal here. So here, I'll show you. It says, the Screams Without Words New York Times article, co-authored by Anat Schwartz, about mass rape has been systematically debunked by many. How did Anat, who had no journalism experience, and her 24-year-old co-author, Adam Sella, her nephew by marriage, come to lead a front-page investigation? That's the question here. What do you think, Kurt? You think...
I don't know. I think maybe she used the Schwartz. Focus your feelings. Let the Schwartz flow through you.
So, Asha K caught this. She said, excellent question. How did Anat, who had no journalism experience, and her 24-year-old co-author Adam Stella, her nephew by marriage, come to lead a front-page investigation? I will try to answer. Her first article in the New York Times was on November 14th, 2023.
Are you saying she's not even a reporter?
So, Mundo Weiss did a story on this. And here's what they say. The latest questions are centered around Anat Schwartz, an Israeli who co-authored several of the paper's most widely circulated reports, including the now well-known and scrutinized December 28th article headline, Screams Without Words, How Hamas Weaponized Sexual Violence on October 7th. So...
Boy, this really leaves me with that feeling of having just bought a DVD player on 42nd Street from a guy that said, Sony Guts.
Yes. So first, she has apparently never been a reporter, but is actually a filmmaker who the Times suddenly hired in October, right after October 7th.
A filmmaker in Israel.
Yes.
So that's like a gangster rapper in Sri Lanka. Who gives a shit?
You would expect the paper to look for someone with actual journalistic experience, especially for a story as sensitive as this one, written during the fog of war. Surely the paper had enough of its own correspondents on staff who could have been assigned to it. Yeah, but none of them...
And take your nephew and go and make an article for the paper. Bring your cousin. Let him help.
She doesn't need to be a reporter. She was a filmmaker, Kurt.
Yeah.
When that doesn't work out, I'm sure Disney will hire her to direct another $300 million film for them.
Just do it. Do your films and make a rape story for the paper and bring your nephew to help.
Next, this is unbelievable. This is a front page of the New York Times. Could they be more discredited? Next, the researchers found that Schwartz had not hidden her strong feelings online. There are screenshots of her liking certain posts that repeated that the 40 beheaded baby hoax story, and that endorsed another hysterical post that urged the Israeli army to turn Gaza into a slaughterhouse. As if it isn't. As if it isn't.
I'm just glad Barry Wise already resigned from the New York Times and didn't have to
write this herself.
This ethical dilemma, which I'm sure she would have said, I have to step down after this story that sounds like a chain letter.
So she liked stories that said turn Gaza into a slaughterhouse and called Palestinians human animals.
Well, that's nice.
That's nice. Just this morning, more evidence emerged online. Swartz apparently also serves in the Israeli military intelligence.
She's doing very well. She's in the intelligence, and she's writing the rape stories for the paper with her nephew.
She was born in Haifa and grew up in Ramal al-Afel. I don't know what that is. She graduated from Thelma Yellin High School of the Arts, majoring in lying in theater, and served in the IDF in Air Force Intelligence.
She does a lot of secret stuff she's not supposed to talk about.
Wow.
But I said, take Joey with you and do the thing with him.
She definitely put the sad in Mossad. Let's pause here. This is what Bandawai says. Let's pause here. Okay, pausing.
There's a picture of a blowjob.
There's a picture of What would happen if the Times suddenly hired a Palestinian filmmaker with no journalistic background who had recently publicly liked posts that called for pushing Israel Jews into the sea, to co-write several of its most sensitive and contested reports? Well, I don't think anything about that.
Michael Rappaport believes they do that, probably. If anything, they're against Israel. Meal.
Well, Kurt, the good news is we don't have to speculate.
Oh.
The Times fired Palestinian photojournalist Hossam Salam in 2022 after one of the pro-Israel media watchdog groups protested about his social media posts. After Anat Swartz's online history became public, she locked down her accounts and then deleted much of the incriminating content. That'll work. I think that'll work, right?
The old Taylor Lorenz?
The old Taylor. Come on.
It really is crazy when I think about the amount of, like, I definitely felt no guilt or like I'm bad for feeling it of, you know, these Muslims are like kind of primitive. They do kind of crazy shit like that. And then all of a sudden you notice, I know some real similar stuff coming from my pals that I'm against these other people with. Real similar. Sometimes much worse.
Here's what Mondoweiss says. The New York Times imposes strict rules on its reporters to maintain the appearance of objectivity. The keyword there, the appearance, not actual objectivity, but the appearance.
Do they word it that way?
That's how they worded it. Do you mean the New York Times worded it?
They call it their style book, I bet.
Reporters are not supposed to attend demonstrations of any kind, wear campaign buttons, or post opinions on social media. By hiring Anat Swartz, the paper clearly violated its own guidelines, and it should publicly explain and apologize. Wow.
Well, let me guess. A family member owns something at the New York Times, and it's seeing as her and her nephew teamed up for this one. I'm guessing there's some more family members involved.
So SJK does it. She goes, in 2017, Anat directed a documentary that was originally titled Dream Israel, but later changed to La Promise.
La Promise.
La Promise.
The ups
hey,
and
you
downs.
know, when I was 19 years old on a St. Patrick's Day, I got hammered and directed traffic. Can I now write an article on the front page of the New York Times?
Well, that depends. What's your last name?
I'm as qualified as Anat Swartz is.
But are you qualified?
She apparently joined Vault AI in 2020, which just seems like a data mill and it's a clickbait place. Okay.
Wait, Vault AI has the technology to uncover Hollywood's secret sauce. Is this about Epstein?
Of course, she's joined an artificial intelligence. Her intelligence is artificial. After Vault AI, she did a short film in 2022, Soviet Life Zoya Cherkassky. Okay, so that's two. And then now, let's get to her co-author, who also didn't write before October 20. These people were not writers. They didn't write. They're not journalists before. And then all of a sudden, the October 7th Hamas attack happens, and New York Times puts them on the front page.
Okay, well, it's not the weirdest thing in the world. I remember one day, all of a sudden, Hannah Gadsby was considered the greatest living comedian for 2 years straight. And everybody was like, what are you, crazy? This is the future of comedy. So, I mean, it happens.
I don't know who that is. Adam,
well, come on.
I barely know who. I think I saw 5 seconds of, what's her name?
You don't know the comedy of an autistic lesbian who looks like Andy Kindler, who was the biggest thing in the world for 2 years.
I missed a lot of stuff, man. And that's definitely one of the things I missed. I did see, I think she did about, she was supposed to be curating something at a museum, and she came out.
It's unwatchable. It's like, I don't know if you thought the SNL character, It's Pat, was like that good, but it's not as good as that thing that was like kind of.
So back to this. So this guy didn't write before October either. It's her nephew. And this is a post from her husband. You want to read this? Watch this. 2 months of literally around-the-clock work ended yesterday when this devastating story was... First of all, it's not literally. You didn't literally work around the clock.
Wait, he misspelled... You're right. And by the way, you misspelled Aunt Schwartz as Anat.
Was
Aunt
published.
Schwartz made a thing.
You know, Anat Schwartz as a filmmaker, but a few days after October 7th, her life took a turn, and she started drilling down into some of the most horrific angles of the Hamas attack. All of them false. I was skeptical initially.
But they fell for it.
But she is my wife, and...
No, it's his aunt.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah.
No, it says this is a post from her husband.
Oh, I thought her nephew wrote
Dan
it.
Sella. Her husband wrote this.
Oh.
And that and her fellow reporters, the Pulitzer Prize winner Jeffrey Gettleman, wait till you get a load of this guy. Lets you know that anybody can win a Pulitzer Prize, and all those awards are all corrupt. Okay. Including the Nobel Peace Prize. Maybe the most corrupt, but anyway.
The Nobel Peace Prize is worse than every single... it's worse than the Golden Globes.
Yeah, interviewed over 150 people for this investigation, and the things they saw and heard are unbearable and not true. The story is not for everyone. Parts of it will haunt you at night because it's made up, but it's extremely important.
Okay, hold on. Was this a private DM to his nephew? Then does that one make sense?
It doesn't look like that.
Because I don't know her as a filmmaker. I knew her as a reporter when she made that great article drilling down on the horror.
Now Jeffrey Gettleman. So it was written by 3 people.
You know why I like him? He's a real Gettleman.
Now Jeffrey Gettleman spent years in Africa, and he was interviewed in 2018 by the Times of Israel. He spews run-of-the-mill anti-Islamic bigotry,
aka anti-Semitism. Same exact people. It's not really about people. It's a language family, Semitic languages.
In Memoir of Love of Africa, a New York Times reporter shakes off the frat boy to become a man. That's the headline.
That's a time that comes in every... I don't care if you're Cenk's nephew or or you're a little Joshy growing up.
And his quality of reporting is actually much worse than the articles mentioned. Here it's Max Blumenthal saying, Jeffrey Gettleman, author of the New York Times bogus Hamas rape stories, previously ran fake quotes by late Zimbabwean President Mugabe, which he lifted from a satirical magazine. Gettleman then blamed an anonymous local journalist for his own error, prompting a police manhunt.
He's a real gentleman.
Wow.
Wow, great job.
Okay. So he's even admitted it. Guilty as charged. The Mugabe quote was a fake. I deeply regret the way we presented it. And I like how he says we. And I will update soon with a link to the amended story. So it's okay to just...
And don't worry, my next stories about rapes will be way better.
Yeah, and it's going to be on the front page. So see the price he had to pay for that? No price.
Well, it happens to everyone.
No price to be paid for that.
But mistakes happen. You learned and you moved on.
Back to Anat Schwartz. She liked the post that said Gaza should be turned into a slaughterhouse well before she wrote her first article for the New York Times.
Okay, what'd she say?
There it is. The
You're
tweet.
Kidding.
Turn the strip into a slaughterhouse. If a hair falls from their head, execute. Even that.
Wait, to go back, you see what's set up there?
No.
And after I talked about unity, one principle that needs to be abandoned today, proportionality.
Yes.
We need a disproportionate response. Well, I guess that worked out.
Yeah.
May Israel see that what she is hiding in the basement. If all the captives are not returned immediately, turn the strip into a slaughterhouse. Well, and print any lies you have to by any means in the paper and bring your nephew.
And now she approached people for interviews because it was important for Israel advocacy.
Yes, she probably has a hard-hitting interview with Michael Rappaport. How could it be? How could it be true they faked that when I had a great home-cooked meal last night?
So on top of it, Gettleman says it's not his job to present evidence.
He's very honest. But my job is to tell the people the thing, so you do the thing. It's not his job. His job is to do propaganda. Or can we play it?
Yeah.
I don't want to even use the word evidence because evidence is almost like a legal term that suggests.
Evidence is almost like a legal term. That's what he said. You mean like you're almost like a journalist?
But like not.
He literally.
Not, in some ways, the exact opposite of that.
I don't want to even use the word evidence because evidence is almost like a legal term that suggests you're trying to.
It's not like a legal term, Kurt. It's almost like a legal term, he says.
Well, okay, it doesn't have to be. It could just mean like you're not lying.
Okay, I know.
I don't want to even use the word evidence because evidence is almost like a legal term that suggests you're trying to prove an allegation or prove a case in court. That's not my role. We all have our roles, and my role is to document, is to present information, is to give people a voice.
Wait, what? Okay, so your job is to
present false information.
Evidence?
Yeah.
Because they're a document. You mean the compiling of evidence?
Of evidence, yes.
With a camera and present people's voice. You mean that's crazy.
That's crazy. And he said it with a straight face and nobody laughed. Maybe this answers the Anat Swartz question, ironically. An article from the New York Times. Israel's government is trying to turn the film industry into a propaganda arm.
Oh, like ours?
So there you go.
Oh, they've come so far. They're going to like compete with Hollywood, right?
So there it is. Maybe she could do a movie called 50 Shades of Oi.
That's racist. That's racist, Jimmy. Tone it back.
Breaking, the New York Times is reportedly going to fire her, Anat Swartz, one of the lead reporters on not just their main mass rape atrocity propaganda hoax, but also sole author of several other New York Times pieces regurgitating it in a desperate attempt to salvage their reputation.
What? Oh, she did like Dick Cheney would plan a story and bring it up, but she did that as the writer of a fake story?
So I guess she wrote follow-ups to that story. Anat Swartz as a person is totally irrelevant, but the New York Times wants to make it about her, and specifically about her breaking their social media etiquette. No, it's about what you allowed her to do by herself and together with Jeffrey Gettleman and Adam Sella. That's the issue. You can't fire her and let her reporting stand. The widely debunked depraved atrocity propaganda hoax written by a genocidal racist maniac. Retract those pieces immediately. Fire Jeffrey Gettleman and Adam Sella, who worked with her to fabricate it. That's the bare minimum. So just to sum up, Anat Swartz was exposed to be a genocidal racist maniac who explicitly expressed she wanted to fabricate propaganda about Hamas being ISIS for Western audiences, and her nephew Adam Sella at the New York Times worked with her to do exactly that. So that's your reliable news sources that YouTube pushes out when it's close to when a breaking news happens. That's what so that when you come in and you type in a news story, YouTube will push you to those reliable sources. New York Times.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's their job to have evidence.
People will say it's not my job to have evidence. I'm just here to tell stories. And boy does he.
Rape story I not wrote with Jeffy and Adam.
It's unbelievable.
It's a family business. Like
and people call us grifters. What is the New York Times?
I don't even know what grifter means. I thought grifter meant you don't believe the thing you're saying.
That's what I always thought.
And so you're saying it just to say it.
Yeah.
Because you're
like a gay person who joins the right wing. Oh, he's just doing that because they.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're doing it because that's the only way they can come.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you an update. I was much longer than I wanted to spend on this.
You know how outrageous it is? I can't think of any. I mean, I'm like this as well. But if there's one thing someone would fault you for is you've never been a grifter. You're a guy who will blurt out exactly what you think, even though it won't win you no friends. Okay, over to stuff. Hey, you know what?
No, back to Jimmy.
You know what? Come back to me. We're going to go right now, everybody, boys and girls, ladies and gents. We're going to go over to Rumble. We're going to go to Rumble. It's time to go to Rumble. So if you go to our social media, if you go to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or something else, we have a link to our Rumble show.
Or just go to Rumble.
Or just go to Rumble and put in the Jimmy Dore Show. And she's going to
right now.
And Misha's going to put the link right in the YouTube chat. She doesn't give a shit. Just like that. I'm gonna put it right in the fucking chat for you. That's her attitude.
Yeah.
That's her attitude. Look, you want me to put it there? How much fucking
right
easier how much easier you want me to make it, assholes?
Oh, you got it pinned already.
She pinned it.
Oh my God.
All right, so we're gonna go over to Rumble. Okay. Hey, this is called Field of Greens. So I don't know if you've ever had this stuff. It's called soup. They're real organic superfood. So you take a scoop of this, you put it in some water, or you can put it in a smoothie. I think it tastes great. It tastes like an Arnold Palmer kind of. It's like fresh cut grass with lemonade in the best way possible. And what is it? It's a superfood. It's real fruit and vegetables. It's not fake. It's not filler. And and guess what? Now, Misha, you'd be better to talk about this because you've been taking it more consistently than me. Tell me what has been your experience taking this?
I notice I have like a little bit more energy. I feel like there's just this like not some sort of unnatural energy or even caffeinated energy, but it's just feeling.
Things people love about you is they believe you tell it like it is.
Says it like it is. He speaks the truth.
It's about time we have a man like Trump in here. They ain't afraid to tell it like it is, man.
We like him. He tells it like it is.
He says what he means. I honestly believe he's telling the truth.
She has no natural talent to be president.
She's very talented, and she has a husband that I also like very much.
Hillary Clinton was the worst Secretary of State in the history of the United States.
Hillary Clinton, how did she do as Secretary of State? Probably above and beyond everybody else.
Let's say Hillary is president.
Hillary Clinton, I think, is a terrific woman. I think she really works hard, and I think she does a good job, and I like her. I will build the wall, and Mexico is going to pay for it, and they'll be happy to pay for it.
I'm not going to pay for that fucking wall.
This guy used a filthy, disgusting word on television, and he should be ashamed of himself, and he should apologize, okay?
Listen, you motherfuckers.
I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. We'll beat the shit out of them. Political bullshit.
You're not going to raise that fucking price, you understand?
Donald, true or false, you've said the government should pay for everyone's health care.
That's false.
You've never said that.
Everybody's got to be covered.
Universal health care.
I am going to take care of everybody.
Who pays for it?
The government's going to pay for it, but we're going to save so much money on the other side.
He said I was in favor of Libya. I never discussed that subject. I was in favor of Libya. We would be so much better off if Gaddafi were in charge right now. Gaddafi in Libya is killing thousands of people. We should go in. We should stop this guy, which would be very easy and very quick. Stop him from doing it and save these lives. They're here illegally. You take them, they have to go back.
We have to show some compassion.
You're right.
We just can't throw everybody out.
They have
So you're going to split up families.
Chuck,
you're going to deport children.
Chuck, no, we're going to keep the families together. We have to keep the families together.
But you're going to keep them together out.
But they have to go.
How do you throw somebody out that's lived in this country for 20 years?
North Korea has nukes. Japan has a problem with that. I mean, they have a big problem with it. Maybe they would, in fact, be better off if they defend themselves from North Korea. Maybe we would be better off. Including with nukes. Yes, including with nukes.
And they said, I want Japan to nuke. I want Japan to get nuclear weapons. Give me a break.
But if you say to Japan, yes, it's fine, you get nuclear weapons, South Korea, you as well, and Saudi Arabia says we want them too.
Can I be honest with you? It's going to happen anyway. So it's only a question of time. I'm a conservative person. The Republicans are just too crazy right. I mean, just what's going on is just nuts.
Bush says, I do not believe he's a true conservative. These people are stupid.
Do you identify more as a Democrat or a Republican?
In many cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat. The economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists.
What do you see as the biggest problem with the Reform Party right now?
Well, you've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem. I mean, this is not exactly the people you want in your party. Wages too high. We're not going to be able to compete against the world. I hate to say it, but we have to leave it the way it is. I don't know how people make it on $7.25 an hour. I would like to see an increase of some magnitude.
Do you believe voters have a right to see your tax returns before they make a final decision?
I don't think they do.
If I decide to run for office, I'll produce my tax returns, absolutely.
There have been many presidents that have not shown their tax returns.
Actually, every single nominee since 1976 has released their tax
before
returns.
1976,
Nobody was worse to women or abused women more than Bill Clinton.
Look at the trouble Bill Clinton got into with something that was totally unimportant.
She's married to a man who got impeached.
They tried to impeach him, which was nonsense.
He was impeached for lying.
I'm the only one on the stage that said we should not go into Iraq.
Are you for invading Iraq?
yeah, I guess so. You know, I wish it was. I wish the first time it was done correctly.
Honesty. Carter once said, "I'll never lie to you." Would you say that, the American people?
I would never lie.
When I'm president, I'm a different person. I can do anything. I can be the most politically correct person that you've ever seen. I can be the most politically correct person in the world. And I can be the opposite.
The president has to be a great leader, and you have to lead by example.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Like to punch him in the face. I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers.
Blood coming out of her, wherever.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
I don't know what I said. This guy will say anything.
Certain that Donald Trump has ever read outside of his own is the book of Hitler's speeches he kept next to his bed in the 1990s, according to his ex-wife. His ex-wife, he was very pissed when she released that information, okay? Because at that time he was still liberal. He didn't want people to know it at that time. So somehow she fell down the stairs and cracked her head open, right? All right, so we're going to get into this, and I'm going to show you this, all right? 92-year-old C-SPAN caller said he met Trump's father, a fan of Hitler and dictators. During C-SPAN's Washington Journal call-in segment, Pete, who identified himself as a 92-year-old from West Palm Beach, Florida, said Trump's father, Fred Trump, visited his village and was a fan of Hitler and dictators. Pete implied Trump got his views of dictators from his father. Now, keep in mind that Donald Trump was a libtard his entire life. Children are often heavily influenced by the views of their parents. Trump's father and Trump were sued for racial discrimination in housing, and Fred was once arrested at a Ku Klux Klan rally for failing to disperse. The 1927 article reporting the arrest doesn't make it clear Fred Trump's status or association with the Klan. Don't his actual loyalties to the brewing years of World War II if they happen to live in the greater New York City region. New York and its suburbs in Long Island and New Jersey had a vibrant community of first and second generation German Americans, the latter having included Fred Trump Sr., a rising star in real estate and retailing. Also active in New York, New Jersey region was the German American Bund, or Amerika Deutscher Bund, an organization that supported Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party and the goals and aspirations of the new Germany. The Bund had been created in May 1933 on the orders of German Deputy Führer Rudolf Hess. The first Bund leader was German immigrant Heinrich Heinz Spacknobel, who initially called his group the Friends of New Germany. In fact, the Bund was nothing more than an overseas extension of the German Nazi Party, and it took its orders directly from Berlin. Outside of the town in Windham, on American soil no less, right? The height of the Bund's activities was a February 20, 1930 rally at New York City's Madison Square Garden. This is the rally that I'm talking about right here, okay? This is the rally that Enlightened Master is telling you that Donald Trump's father was in, okay? Sir Norman Vincent Peale was Donald Trump's 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason pastor. This is the seal of the 33rd degree. It's also the family crest of Donald J. Trump. Okay, Albert Pike, who is the most famous Scottish Rite Freemason of all time, was the head of the Knights of the Golden Order, who later changed their name to the Ku Klux Klan. I'm going to provide it, okay? I'm not going to be nasty to people. I'm just going to provide the information, all right? That's what I'm going to do. The elder Trump was publicly, he was even sued for it, publicly known to be a racist, and he refused to rent his apartments in Queens and Brooklyn to African Americans. Wow, that must be a coincidence. In 1927, there were few organizations for far-right extremists like Fred Trump to join. One was the KKK, which had its roots in the post-Civil War Reconstruction South. Another was Italian lender Benito Mussolini's overseas Fascisti, which was primarily composed of Italian immigrants to the United States. By the early 1930s, far-right wingers in the American North were fast to embrace the Nazis, and Kunzbund was able to ready to answer the call and begin recruiting in its ranks. Fred Trump's FBI file, which includes the 1927 arrest at the KKK march, appears to be missing his pre-war and immediate post-war year activities. The file does not resume until the 1960s, when the FBI began monitoring the elder Trump's association with mafia syndicates in New York. Brother, remember I told you and I've showed you unequivocally that his brother had everything to do with the murder of and the torture of Nikola Tesla. In New York, old man Trump also suspiciously volunteered after dodging World War II draft to construct Navy barracks and garden apartments in at least 3 highly sensitive Navy ports in Chester, Pennsylvania, and Norfolk and Newport News, Virginia. Yeah, that's right. He was a draft dodger, to all you Trump dodgers out there. All 3 ports saw thousands of Americans and Canadian troops embarked for combat in North Africa and Europe. Some of these ships fell prey to German U-boats, which received intelligence on the Allied ship movements from Nazi agents in the very same port areas where old man Trump so generously bid on construction contracts with the Navy. Right here, with the Navy. Let me repeat his treason again, okay? All 3 ports saw thousands of American and Canadian troops embarked for combat in North Africa and Europe. Some of these troop ships fell prey to German U-boats. In other words, Americans got killed because of Donald Trump's father, which received intelligence on the Allied ship movements from Nazi agents in the very same port areas where old man Trump so generously bid on construction contracts with the Navy.
I suppose old man Trump knows just how much racial hate he stirred up in the blood parts of the folks in New York State. He drawed that colored line that we fought in the last war, and we ain't got no home in this world anymore. Beach Haven ain't my home. I just can't pay the rent. My money's down the drain, and my soul is badly bent. Beach Haven looks like heaven where no black folks come to roam. No, 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 old man Trump. Beach Haven ain't my home. No.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit